do that, let's take a quick spot of music. DJ Perfect, what do you have for us?
Success music. I know someone got John Mr. J. This is for my ladies in the house. And man, I'm a hustle to see the dollar bill.
And this is Strength of a Woman, Sarkodie and Stonebwoy. Keep it locked on here. It's Between Hours on Asaase Radio.
And man, I'm a hustle to see the dollar bill. Me pamotron, me my baby, I'm a how. Doesn't matter how you feel. Yeah, this is the strength of a woman. Ain't nobody better than the boss chick. All the ladies who they fight for the moolah. What they want, nobody for touch. Cause she know the phone quick. Self-made. What they mean challenge she, cause she be well paid. On per boy, she looking for help mate. Cause she know the suffer from sulfate. And when you are hell late, she go pull up on you. What's up with friend and a woman? What cause I wanna say, would you do my yard? I'm a hang up on you. When you want bad, I want them home. I want to get and I would die. They say, I got love for you. Now, so get the work I cried. This is still I was a wicked man with there. She go ride or die for you. Me say, ride or die for you. Baby, listen me, I got the love for you. My last one, CD, I go bet on you. You got my body type and I know just any girl can go the place where you can go. Girl are independent and you buy your own things and no man never rent you no can do. Where you come so far. 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 You can never pull a strong woman down. She got it all what's in the shoe and I was sorry. Very confident, she never wear a frown. On Pesica, we don't crash, don't go worry. Oh, yeah, the dream, I got the money on her own. Need nature crash, she go treat you like a king. But you don't get it if you don't deserve the throne. Man, I come across money anything. When come a man, I'm going shopping with Dubai. I'm going to find my baby account to multiply. We you dream back, got another on the side. Oh, you know my girl, she can be taken for a ride. You know, go if you pay the price. You know, me, I got the love for you. My last one, CD, I go bet on. You got my body type and I know just any girl can go the place where you can go. Girl are independent and you buy your own things and no man never rent you no can do. Where you come so far. 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 Woman, you never did defense from a man overseas. You step in at the place and the whole of them freeze. You live up in a mansion and that never leaves. Any man try hype up rest.
Asaase Radio 99.5. 99.5.
So far, where you come so far. 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 You can never pull a strong woman down. She got it all what's in the shoe and I was sorry. Very confident, she never wear a frown. On Pesica, we don't crash, don't go worry. Oh, yeah, the dream, I got the money on her own. Need nature crash, she go treat you like a king. But you don't get it if you don't deserve the throne. Man, I come across money anything. When come a man, I'm going to shopping with Dubai. I'm going to find my baby account to multiply. We you dream back, got another on the side. Oh, you know my girl, she can be taken for a ride. You know, go if you pay the price. You know, me, I got the love for you. My last one, CD, I go bet on. You got my body type and I know just any girl can go the place where you can go. Girl are independent and you buy your own things and no man never rent you no can do. Where you come so far. 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 Where you come so far, 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 where you come.
Strength of a Woman, Sarkodie and Stonebwoy, our landlord and overlord of Accra. This is Between Hours live on Asaase Radio. International Women's Day, and I'm hosting in place of Nashoko. My name is Keely Jade Burr, and I'm here with Miss Soraya Cofie. We're about to jump into such an insightful conversation. I can't wait. I'm super excited. But first, let me talk to you about MaxMed Prostacare. These capsules are effective for the treatment of urine retention, frequency of urine, dribbling of urine, and many other issues. You can visit any pharmacy or herbal shops for MaxMed Prostacare capsules. Available at King's Walk Herbal, Rich Joe's Pharmacy, Harlow's Herbal, Tinatet Herbal, Pharmatrust Pharmacy, and Top Up Pharmacy. You can catch them outside at Okaishi Drug Lane. Call Max Top Health Services on 055-809-123. That's 055-809-3123. Hello, Miss Soraya.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, you're welcome again.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so let's talk about you for a quick moment.
Right.
You have a knack for observation and excellence, and you decided to carve a niche for yourself in the education space in Ghana. Instead of me introducing you and putting so much grandeur on this stack of pancakes, I want you to tell us about yourself.
Okay. Okay, so I'm Soraya Cofie, and I like to think of myself as a lifestyle luxury entrepreneur, as well as an education entrepreneur. So currently, I'm operating as an education entrepreneur, and on the side, I've got a few lifestyle services that I offer to the Ghanaian community at large. But yeah, I'm here mostly to talk about my education entrepreneurship. So that's what I will be zooming into. I'm the founder of Montessori Center Ghana, as well as its virtual campus, Montessori Center Ghana Online. And what we do is to offer Montessori, high quality, authentic Montessori training through a digital experience when you're studying with us. We did start out as a face-to-face or contact course, but over the period we've evolved, especially since COVID, onto a digital platform, and so we are taking courses through our virtual campus. But most importantly, I'm celebrating recently being the first Ghanaian woman who's also the recipient of the Montessori Global Awards.
Go Soraya.
Yes, particularly or specifically for outstanding contribution to Montessori in practice. And yes, recently it was my birthday, so it's like, cherry on top.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And you've been in the game for about 12 years. You've been in the industry for about 12 years.
Actually, about 16.
16.
16, yes.
Ah.
But I've been running my business for about 13 years.
13.
Yes.
Oh wow. So I want to know. Let's double back to when you were younger.
Okay.
At what point did you decide, like, I have this passion within me to make sure that people receive quality education?
Okay, so I don't think I actually set out to go into education entrepreneurship initially. I did actually wanted to start a nursery. Well, that stems from my background in developmental psychology and early childhood studies. So I studied with MCI in London. And so when I decided that I wanted to build my career in early childhood, I was actually just looking to start a nursery. And so, I'm back with enthusiasm and thinking, okay, I want to start a Montessori nursery and to have children and to develop to develop them and to ensure their successful growth. However, I chanced on just by looking at the market, because what happened was when I first got in, I was looking to get a job.
Yeah.
And I went from school to school applying, and I realized that I did come across a couple of schools and realized that they really did not have a full understanding of what Montessori was. And so I immediately saw a gap in the system where Montessori was lacking. And I thought, okay, potentially, instead of just focusing on the children, I could look at equipping the workforce that actually provide Montessori's or early childhood services based on Montessori. And so I started my Montessori training journey. So it was something that I chanced on, not necessarily planning for it in the beginning.
But I'm sure you came here and you were shocked to find out that any school that just had babies in there was called a Montessori.
I was totally blown away. I was blown away.
Oh, we shocked you. Yeah. We shocked you, didn't we?
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did. It was quite it was quite a discovery for me, because I came from a culture where everybody understood what the philosophy or the pedagogy for Montessori is. Like early childhood is a broad subject. However, most people would build on that foundation based on a certain philosophy. And Montessori is one of the philosophies. To be honest, Ghana's philosophy runs on Froebel. So that will be with the GS. And so that's built on the Froebel philosophy. However, Montessori, it's a whole different niche on its own. But most people interchange it with nursery.
You know what? Let's dive into that. Let's educate the public, and even I need to be educated. I'm curious because over here, if you're a kid and you're below the age of 5, you're going to Montessori, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I like that name.
You're going to Montessori. Yes. So I want us to know, teach us the difference between the Froebel and then the Montessori systems.
Okay. So Froebel is what we all easily understand, or because that's what we are all exposed to. So it's the kindergarten system that we all, see around. But even that, it is a philosophy on its own. It's not a generalized term that just signifies early childhood or signifies kindergarten. It is a learning approach that's based on understanding children, but using a particular set of a particular understanding and set of skills, and probably a certain methodology.
Okay.
And so Froebel leans heavily on using specific gifts with children and specific tools or equipment. And even when you think about it, when you think the word kindergarten, because that stems from the Froebel idea, that just generally stands for children. In kindergarten kinder stands for children,
yes,
and garten stands for garden. So it's more like a child-based learning where children are learning through the environment sort of, but within an open environment. So and then there's a set curriculum, and then there's a set of equipment that they're using, specialized equipment. But we don't really delve into that. We just sort of work with the curriculum. Now, Montessori is a philosophy,
okay,
on its own. It is an approach. That's what most people immediately zoom into. But it's a philosophy. It's a mindful philosophy that can be applied even with adults. So it covers, the development of the human, not children, the human, starting from 0, even pre-birth, starting from before a child is born, and through his whole developmental process until he's an adult. And it can be used as a guide throughout life. So even for me now at my age, I use Montessori as a philosophy on a daily basis in my workplace and interacting with people. It's a mindful approach that respects the human. Generally, that is what you want to think about immediately when you think about Montessori.
Okay.
It respects the education of the human. That's not just, limited to academic learning, but the wholesome learning of the human. And so this is what Montessori is. But when it's brought down to education, then we're looking at the methodology, which is the approach to which we look at developing the child and their learning. But again, it's not limited to the child because Montessori is used even for adults, and it's used for, even recently, it's being used for older people with dementia.
Right.
So it's a philosophy, it's an approach to improving the development of a person. That's what it generally is. Now, when we look at the academic aspect of it, we look at the environment. We look at developing the child through an enabling environment. And that environment is so specialized because it considers the adult being the balance between promoting the child's environment or promoting the child's development within a specific type of environment. And this specific type of environment is characterized by a specific set of learning materials and a certain approach to which we deliver the materials which are meant to develop the child's learning.
Okay.
So it doesn't go by a curriculum where you're looking at children learning across board where they're the same age. You're not looking at a curriculum which is just structured where the child comes in to look at. It looks at following the individual child.
So knowing you, knowing me approach.
Yes, knowing me, knowing your
Yeah,
approach, basically, yes. So as an adult, I'm meant to understand the child and how the child learns, and not the other way around, which is generally the traditional form of learning where we learn to teach the child. But this time we're learning how children understand and absorb learning through the environment. And then we provide the specific space and tools to enable the child to maximize that learning within the environment. But I have to highlight that there is a specific set of equipment that children would learn within the Montessori methodology in a specific environment. And when I say specific environment, it's just an environment that takes into consideration the individual child and an environment that promotes his ability to lead his own learning. So we grew up on
morning mental. You enter the classroom, they ask you what's the 9 times table. What is 9 times 105?
Exactly.
Wrong answer, remove your fingertips.
Well, so that's where Montessori comes in, where it definitely makes a difference where the child is being set up to be successful and not being set up for failure. Because if you came in the morning and you went through mental immediately, you potentially might fail because you're not prepared for it.
Yeah, that was me. That's why I still suck at math, I believe.
I suck at math.
Yeah, honestly. I feel like it traumatizes children when they have to, and teachers, I'm sure you're listening in, please, don't wake up and choose violence. Like, when you enter the classroom and they start bombarding you with questions.
Yes.
And you just woke up. Maybe you're a little disoriented because you're not a morning person.
Exactly.
And they're like, no, you're a child and you should be full of energy. And I'm asking you for the 10 times table and you just cannot comply, excuse me. And it becomes a problem.
Exactly.
So I want to ask, you think that the traditional approach creates a learning gap? Although it's an educational approach, I feel like it might create a learning gap because people will be left behind just because they cannot catch up, because they don't understand what they're doing per se.
Well, yes. I mean, I'm Montessori, so I'm biased. I'm certainly biased. Yes, but yeah, it does create a learning gap where mainstream is concerned. I would like to use mainstream instead of traditional because Montessori is traditional in its own sense.
Okay, come through.
So mainstream education is just a replica or like a copy and paste system where we're in a hurry just to educate and we don't take into consideration the individual child. So it's always easier to fall back on a certain pedagogy.
Okay.
You know, and so there are different pedagogies. You know, like I mentioned, Froebel, there's Montessori, there's Reggio Emilio, there's Waldorf. You know, there's quite a number of them.
A lot of things for us to read, yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. However, even Froebel on its own, it's amazing. It is very in tuned to the specific gifts of a child and how to promote that. Now, there is a gap when you do a copy and paste. And that is where, you know, we lack when we look at education as a whole, especially in mainstream. So, yes, it does create a gap. But Montessori aims to fill that gap because we don't bunch the children together and think just because they're a certain age, they can do certain things. No, every child is an individual on their own. And so every child has their area of interest. And usually that's where you start to promote a child's learning, through their area of interest. It's not, you know, it's not just about, okay, I think that this child is at this age and they're ready for this. What are they interested in? And what can we work with? You know, how do we bring their interest into a certain area? And then where they don't have interest, how do we promote and encourage that? So yes, those are the things that
Okay, let's come back to our Ghanaian setting where teachers believe that spare the rod, spoil the understanding level. They believe that if they spare the rod, the child will just not understand or comprehend what they are being taught. So
you're
they'll
giving
bring
memories from childhood.
Oh yeah, of course, bring up the PTSD. So they believe that if you don't use the ruler on the fingertips or the cane on the back or something similar to that, the kid is just not going to absorb the knowledge as they should. We went through it. We got our fingertips cut off a couple of times and we turned out just fine. But do you think that this approach is necessary?
Absolutely. I mean, I like how you defined that there. We turned out just fine, but we could have turned out greater.
Okay,
it could have
great,
been amazing.
Minus the PTSD, yes.
Exactly. So I mean, post-traumatic stress is not good for anybody. However, Montessori seeks to close that gap.
Okay.
You know, to fill in where, you know, all of that is missing. And so it's not, I believe it's necessary that we pay attention to the individual child. I mean, I could learn something and not have had PTSD associated with it.
Exactly. I mean,
You know, I could have done that. So I'm also a Montessori parenting coach. I'm a parenting coach generally. However, you know, I come from the Montessori approach. So in a lot of my seminars or talks with parents, I would say to them, I've got two beautiful daughters.
Congratulations.
Not necessary to delve into that. However, I've got an 18-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I can confidently say that I raised both my children without the PTSD that is associated with You know, I'm not applying physical punishment, but it's about connections with young children, making the right connections and getting them to listen to you.
But you know, sometimes too, I want to learn, considering you're an educator, sometimes other educators complain, like, this child is just not complying and this child obviously needs to be decked. So should we go ahead and deck the devil out of the child, or should we continue a talking approach? Because sometimes the children are just not listening.
Yeah. Okay. So generally, if you ask me just off the top of the head, I would say yes. Let's continue the talking approach because it's about connections. But it's not a straightforward approach, and it's not you know, one size fits all approach immediately. There are a lot of things that need to be considered. So if you came to me and told me I've got a 12-year-old that doesn't listen, and I've been hitting them for a while, and now I want to suddenly switch over to a talking approach, I would say, no, you've conditioned the child. So now the only way they listen to you is when you hit them. However, we can still make progress, but it will take a longer time, you know, and this is where this is where your attention is brought to the fact that it's really critical, the developmental stages under 6. And so I would say to you, or all parents listening out there,
hi
all
guys,
educators listening out there, especially ones working with under 6s. This is the time where you establish connections and talk to the child.
right?
But it's the environment. It's the environment. So our mainstream doesn't give us that opportunity.
At all.
No, it doesn't. It's
yeah.
very stiff. You come in and you listen to your teacher and you take what they tell you and you go away. Whereas, again, I would want to bring the attention to Montessori because that's where my specialization is in.
Of course.
And so the Montessori environment is prepared and it's set out in a way where the child can lead his own development. And so it's very different from mainstream. In mainstream, children are put together and they are taught together and they are put in a linear grouping. But Montessori looks at a horizontal grouping. So children are placed in a 3-year span.
Okay.
So you're looking at 0 to 3 in one environment. You're looking at 3 to 6 in one environment. So that, and then, 6 to 9, 9 to 12 over a 3-year span. Why? Because it fosters community. I mean, in your natural environment, you don't have people living together all along the same age.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Exactly. There are like different ages. And we learn from people who are older than us.
True.
And even the ones that are younger than us.
Yeah.
And then we get the opportunity to naturally role model to these younger ones. And then we learn from the older ones because they would have a bit more experience, in handling and tackling their environment and their approach to life generally. And so that's what Montessori does for the child who is in a 0 to 3 or in a 3-year span in one environment. And what happens is that we're not sitting and grouping them and educating them. They come in and the environment is set out with natural equipment that would inspire or spark their attention and their interest in a particular area. So there are different curriculum areas and there are tools that match those curriculum areas so that they come in and they learn. But in mainstream, there's absolutely nothing.
There's just one cap fits all vibe, yeah.
Hands and also hands-on. So I have to direct the total learning of the child. But, just because I'm talking to a group of children, it doesn't mean everybody within that 20-person group is interested in what I'm saying.
True.
Even us in here in this room, now, there's 3 of us, and we all have different interests.
Very true, yes.
Exactly. So I can't put all of us together and say, look, you have to hear what I'm saying or you have to follow a certain, path because I'm saying it. I'm not the law. The child, your interest is the law. And for developing children, they've got their own interests and that must be paid attention to. So I can't just come in and say, look, I'm giving everybody the same thing and everybody has to follow.
Of course
I won't
not.
have success with
Yeah. And speaking of interest areas, I want to know, do you think it's possible to incorporate STEM learning into the Montessori system?
Absolutely.
For young kids, though, because sometimes people look at STEM and they're like, okay, science, technology, education, mathematics. It just might be a little too broad for their little minds. But do you think you can start at an early age and probably just coax them into it nicely?
Yeah, I mean, children are an absorbent mind. They're absorbent at, especially under 6. They're a massive sponge that's just absorbing everything into the environment. We're conditioned under 6.
Yeah.
80% of who we are as an adult is developed or created when we're under 6. So, and 20%, that whole 100% being is 80% of that is under 6, is created under 6. And between 6 and until the time you die, you actually don't achieve the 20%. You just keep, developing and and you don't actually attain it, So that 80% is what we have to maximize on. And STEM is a big part of Montessori. Why? Because Dr. Montessori herself was a scientist.
Okay.
She was the first Italian female doctor to have ever graduated in Italy. And so she started off as a scientist, a psychiatrist, and then later became, channeled all that education into the area of education and then specialized in early childhood. And so STEM is a big part of Montessori. We've got a whole curriculum area that's solely dedicated to science education. And obviously, in her time, which was 150 years ago, technology wasn't a big thing.
True, yes.
But moving forward, she left a legacy where there's a whole system, there's a whole group of people that are dedicated to constant research, to evolving and applying modernization to Montessori. And so technology stems from science, and so that's become a big part of Montessori as well. However, our approach is quite different.
Okay.
Because we believe in hands-on learning. We're not promoting too much screen time.
Yeah, because that fries up the brain a little bit.
Exactly.
And the eyes and everything else.
Exactly. And it gives too much room for sedentary learning.
Yes.
Because you're just sitting and watching whatever that's being fed to you. But with learning for young children, they must be engaged. They have to be involved in what they're learning. It has to be a sensory experience. They have to constantly be experiencing their learning.
Right.
Because we're trying and then we derive answers. So STEM is a big part, but the approach is different. So we would introduce STEM. We've got a curriculum that's actually called the cultural curriculum.
Okay.
And it covers biology, it covers history, it covers science, it covers geography. When you come to biology, you're looking at zoology, you're looking at zoology, you're looking at botany.
Yes.
So you're learning about your environment, the bigger world. Mm-hmm. And then you're also looking at technology, which is relatively new in Montessori, potentially 20, 15 years back. But what we're doing is teaching children to code, but through a hands-on learning approach. So yes, that can be definitely incorporated into the environment. Beautiful. What you wouldn't see in a Montessori environment is usually you wouldn't see a screen, you wouldn't see TV.
Because of the hands-on approach, obviously.
Exactly. Everything we can absorb in our environment, we can talk about it. We can do activities around it. We can, get our hands down and dirty. If we want to learn about how plants grow, we grow the plants.
Facts. And I want to know, Heavy's the head that wears the crown. Like, it's ghetto out in these streets, You come with your ideas and you have this purpose and or passion burning in your heart to achieve something. You're trying your best, but of course you'd face challenges. What are some challenges that you faced? Don't worry, you don't have to name drop anybody. You can just be very vague about it. But let's help you decompress.
Absolutely.
It's therapy.
Absolutely. Okay, so first of all, I practice a lot of gratitude. So I find that I have been blessed in this whole journey.
Right.
It's 13 years. It's a long time, but it's been good.
Okay.
It could be better, but it's really been good. The challenges that I would say I find, the very first one is usually me. I'm my own challenge.
I feel exactly what you mean. Procrastination?
No, not procrastination.
Perfectionism?
Yes. I've got very high standards. I'm a product of, I like to think of myself as a really good apprentice. So whatever was passed down to me in my own learning development, especially where education, early childhood is concerned and Montessori, is what I like to bring to the T in my business. So we run a training college. It's not education for children. I train people who want to work with children, who want to start a career working with children, and for parents and school owners. And I bring that to the T. I like to say that if Montessori was alive, she'll be very proud of me. But I do know that's true. After 13 years being conferred with, being recognized in our global community as somebody who's carrying that torch, it means I've been doing something right. But it's a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. So it can be a limitation as well as something that uplifts you. I'm my own limitation. I'm my biggest challenge. I don't look at what other people are doing. I've got a standard. I've got a purpose, and I'm going in for that. That's constantly what it is. And I constantly look at ways to improve what I'm giving to my clients. And so sometimes, that can be that little voice in your head that says, are you doing something? Are you doing the right thing? Could you do better? You overthink it. And, and then that could, maybe lead to procrastination.
Yes, it can sometimes. But I want to know, the patriarchy is real, okay?
Yes.
Sometimes you try to ignore it.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're a strong woman, you just go out there, face the world, and you don't pay anybody any mind.
Yes.
But I want to know, have you been able to handle your career and all this growth, albeit being right in the nitty-gritty of the patriarchy, trying to pull you down?
Yeah. Okay, that's a challenge. However, I've not really looked at it as a challenge. It is real, but I believe in my feminism. I believe that a woman needs to be a woman. And I come to the table being a woman.
Agreed.
Yeah, I come to the table being a woman. So it's on someone else if they can't appreciate that. So I walk into a room. If I walk into a room full of, say, for example, of men, and they need to be key decision makers where I'm concerned, I walk into the room being a woman, and I balance the dynamics of being a woman. Good communication skills, of collaboration, and good listening. And I've used that over the period of time. It can be challenging. I wouldn't downplay that, definitely.
Of course.
Because even within my industry, I've got key players who are men that need to make that decision for me. And so there are a few issues that would come up. The way that I look in itself can be a challenge. The way that I look in itself can be a challenge.
Can I get your number? Can we go for dinner? No, we can't go for dinner, sweetheart. I'm here for business.
No, absolutely.
Focus on the prize.
I do have that challenge.
I know. You're pretty. Like, it happens.
Yes, it does happen. However, I don't let that stop me. If I walk into a room and that's going to be the bone of contention, then I would walk away and still continue to do what I have to do. I've got a dream, I've got a purpose, and I'm serving it. I can shelve it for the moment. So say I need funding, for example, and I to move it to the next level, and it's, that's becoming a challenge, then I would go in, I would give it my best shot, I would pitch it, and if the patriarchy has to become an issue, then I would definitely walk out and say, look, this is a fight for another day. Why? Because I would go back and work with, and I didn't mention, I've got, my business is a pink collar business. I've got a team of amazing women that I work with. And so I would go back and fall on these, women, and we would still carry on with what we're doing.
As you should.
As we should.
Yes, as you should.
Yes. And so we don't have it all sorted out because, it's a man's world a bit within the corporate organization. But we do what we have to do.
Of course.
Yes. Because we're called to it.
All right. Final question, Miss Soraya. You've been spending International Women's Day with me over here on Between Hours. It's been lovely. But I want to know, who are the women in your life that you're celebrating today? Let's shout them out real quick.
Amazing.
You can start with Barbara.
Yes, first of all, I've got Barbara. So, Barbara and I have been friends for over 30 years.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
I stand. I love this.
Yeah, we go a long way back. She's been amazing support for me and over the years. And every woman needs a pillar. Every woman needs a tribe of women. And I would say that I'm lucky to have a tribe of women. Why? Because, I believe in building up people, and I don't believe in competitiveness and, competing with other women, because that's all we've got. We've got each other.
True.
And so we need to be able to fall back on each other. And I'm lucky to say that I've got women, I attract women who want to stand with me throughout. And so I've got Barbara from over 30 years. And then I've got my own team from the company. So I've got Howla.
Oh.
So Howla is our head of practical training.
Yeah.
And she's been with us. She's been with MCG for well over 7 years. And, she is, you can't mention MCG and not think Howla. So shout out Howla.
Hey, Howla.
Amazing. So we've got Howla. We've got Na Doko, who's our administrative head, and she keeps the business running. And recently we've got a new addition. So I've taken a bit of time off active training currently to be able to attend to some of my international callings. And
come through.
And so I've got Alexis. Hey, Alexis. And she's holding down training constantly. Look, I'm biased. I would say that I don't have a single man on my team, unfortunately. Well, early childhood, usually in Ghana, people are more comfortable when they see women working.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's limited to women. We want the men to come into the game.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, we're just more nurturing, so they could have several seats.
Exactly.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, but I've got this amazing team. So I've got Alexis, there's Effie, there's Patricia. We've got quite a team that's been holding on for 13 years. And these are all people that have been with me right from the beginning. So there's, honorable mention of Abena. Hey, Kezia. So it's been quite a journey.
Lovely. Miss Soraya Cofie, thank you so much for coming through Between Hours. Thank you for spending your day with me. Thank you so much. Now let's go for a quick spot of money making. And when we're back, we'll wrap up. Let's go.
Vena Water is proudly made in Ghana by Trillium Industrial Company Limited and is purified using a series of filtration, reverse osmosis, UV sterilization, and ozonation to meet high standard of quality and safety. Vena, which is ISO certified, is also awarded as the Water of the Year at the Ghana Beverage Awards 2021, Product of the Year by Ghana Manufacturing Awards 2019, Water Producing Company of the Year by Ghana Manufacturing Awards 2021. Purchase a bottle of Vena, which comes in 330 ml, 500 ml, 750 ml, 1.5 liters, and 15-liter jar. For bulk purchase, contact 0249 717777. This advert is FDA approved.